I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
It's the Legends of Tomorrow after show. Get it on. Look at that. Daddy's back. Can you get his love? Daddy's back. Daddy's back. Daddy Darhk is back. Uh-oh. What you gonna do when Daddy Darhk is back? Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Legends of Tomorrow After Show, breaking down every episode of Season 5, airing Tuesday nights on the CW. I'm Frank Moran. I'm Dave Childs. Making us look good, sound even better, bringing the applause noise in. Jonathan in the house.
Oh, yeah. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Look at that. Oh, Lauren B., usually with us here on this panel, is on assignment. She's busy on a film set. She's, blown up in the entertainment industry. She can't be with us this evening, but she'll be back here next week, breaking down everything. But in the meantime, folks, like us on Facebook. Give us those 5 stars on iTunes. Subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Oh, why not?
Yeah. Give us a thumbs up while you're there. And you know what? If you're watching live, the chat is up and running. So get in there and share your thoughts. I know you're doing it already.
Yeah, we're looking at people in the chat, ready to say hi. We're starting. We're going to talk to you. People love the puppets. They love to see the puppets.
That's right. We, where's the Martin Stein puppet? But that's possessed by an insane killer. So, what are you going to do?
How did you like this episode, Frank?
I guess I'll give a spoiler right now and just say, usually we do the hottest segment, special segment in any show in the history. I dare say the history of the internet.
Everyone's favorite segment.
Yeah, and that's, where's the beef? I feel like this is a very beef light episode for me.
Beef light.
Beef light, and I
Very
worry.
slim on the beef.
Yes, I worry when we get to that special segment. Will I actually have a beef? And I'm scared.
Interesting. I think you'll conjure up some beefs.
All right. How about yourself?
I'm agreeing with you. I had a lot of fun with this episode. Again, I like it. The sillier, the better in the show. But I think they did a good balance this episode of character development, heartfelt kind of family feeling stuff that I like in this show, where they're all a family and they all like each other, and then also some comedy on top of it. And it was a good combo of all of that stuff.
Yeah, because
that was kind of nice.
I do like when the show does have the more grounded elements along with the comedic. But for me, grounded doesn't need to be heavy action or anything like that. It can be what it was in this episode, which is just some nice kind of
character development.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I enjoyed that.
As long as it's like stuck to the characters. And this is also a power light episode. Like, there's not that many powers, and sometimes we complain about that. But that's if it's an action sequence, and it's like, why aren't they bringing out the powers? This one, they're dealing with a family drama, and so it was nice to have it. And I think they also had some fun, B and C stories happening too. So I think it was a good episode.
Now, I'm going to ask you, Mr. Dave Child.
Yeah.
If you're kind of looking at the kind of reoccurring baddies, kind of like the upper echelon from the Arrowverse, let's say you've got Reverse Flash, you've got Malcolm Merlin, you've got Damian Darhk. Probably your big 3 that you've got. If you're trying to look at the upper echelon of villains that have kind of come back again and again and again to kind of plague our heroes.
Right.
If you were having to rank those, where would you put Damian Darhk on that list? Would you put him at the top, middle, bottom?
I think I put him as number 2. Because I think just Reverse Flash is a bit more serious. Mm-hmm. In the Arrowverse overall, I feel like Reverse Flash is someone who actually, is tied in with the origin of a character. It's tied in with, it's a big baddie that keeps coming back. And Damian Darhk I like a lot because I think he's able to come back and have these lighter moments, but it still makes sense with the character. It didn't feel that unusual. It didn't feel like they, kind of knocked off the badness of a character by doing this, he's a dad thing. Because it feels like that's always kind of there. Mm-hmm. There's always some sense of just, this corny dad nature to Damian Darhk. So I feel like it kind of fits in with it. So, yeah, but I feel like he's up there. I mean, I would maybe even put a lot of Flash's villains a little above him sometimes. Even, I think, well, Grodd hasn't really broke out amongst the other ones, but I feel like he's a bit more badass in a little ways.
True. I mean, I feel like the only thing that really stops Grodd from being a more reoccurring type of character is just
the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, the budget of having a giant gorilla. Yeah.
You know, but I would say, and I think I would agree with you that I'd put Reverse Flash as number one, only because as a kid who loved comic books, Reverse Flash is like one of the first villains I really dialed into. And so I've always got a soft spot for him. But I will give it up for Damian Darhk because I think in one sense, over Reverse Flash, that he's had more of a character developing arc.
Yes.
I feel like if you see Reverse Flash coming back now, it's still like, I hate you, Barry Allen, and you're going to pay. Yeah. But I feel like we've seen Damian Darhk, you can still say, yes, he's a bad guy, but he has gone through some changes, and he's softened and changed slightly. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like I've liked the arc that Damian Darhk has gone on.
Yeah.
So in that respect, I might put him just a little bit over Reverse Flash in terms of the Arrowverse.
Yeah, for like a complete character. Yeah, I think so. It's kind of depends on like who's a better bad guy.
Yes.
I guess that's why I was thinking Reverse Flash.
And I wouldn't discount that.
Yeah, but like a better character who's also a bad guy is Damian Darhk, because I could see him going good.
And I will give it up for Neil McDonough because, man, he just nails
so good.
The dark and the comedic, even within the same sentence.
And this was such a fun episode because there's something about, I love John Constantine coming in and then they have their wizard fight. And then when Constantine, falls into like, oh, I have to pretend to be the boyfriend. Of course, Damian would love Constantine. I love that. I think that's such a smart writing move. One, they have these encores. People are coming back from the dead. There was just a lot of smart writing in this episode where they had a lot of fun with Gary had some great moments. They used Gary the best they can use Gary, which is just have these nice joke moments and then have him kind of go back into the background and then come back. I love starting off with it's when Gary was cleaning up Bebo fur.
Yes.
And stuff, because of course that's when Damian Darhk would come back. Usually all the encores are coming back right after they die. So that's when he would come back, and then they were able to have him glitching out of time. And he's like, did I just fade out of existence? And I just love how he knew that. And then he got to see back in time Gary, and they got to have fun. They had to have good time travel jokes because of that.
I like that, and I like that he agrees to make the potion that's going to depower Damian Darhk. And I like that they let him succeed in that. It was just the placing of the dishes that thwarted the plan. But actually, no, because he actually planned it right. It was the mousse, the chocolate mousse, that ended up thwarting the plan.
Yeah,
the ring in there. But he succeeded, and that was nice to see Gary succeed at something. Yeah.
In the chat, by the way, we have Brendan52 saying Damian Darhk walked on Arrow so he could run on Legends, and I love that. And also, and I guess this is kind of going ahead, but this is Rabner28 said I found Damian's death in this episode more impactful than his first death in the end of episode 3. I mean, I feel like he's died quite a bit. So
that's true.
There's actually it's interesting to if you bring in the Arrow stuff. He died on Arrow and then he came back with the League of Doom. And then, then he turned into a giant demon, and that's how he died. And it wasn't it didn't feel like a good ending for the character. I think I remember even us talking about that. It didn't feel like this is Damian Darhk. This is someone we've been existing, and we don't get to have this kind of moment. So this was a nice encore, exactly what it set up. It's a good encore where he was able to come back and be redeemed. But they also did, and we're jumping all over the place in this episode, but I think sometimes what ends up happening, especially in superhero stuff, so much convoluted stuff happens that you end up forgetting what first happened to make this person badass. And that was there's no way Sarah's shaking his hand. And I feel like in some shows they forget about stuff that has happened in the past and would just have the handshake and just have it. But Damian killed Laurel, so it makes sense that she would not be able to forgive him, even though he's a lovable dad now. And it's a good way to bring that in and remind us that he does have this darkness to him. you know.
I like it, and I will give a shout out to, as you were saying, this is a very kind of depowered episode, but out of all the, I mean, we're playing make believe essentially on the show, but there's something I've always admired about Neil McDonough is that he sells himself really using these powers.
Yes.
He makes me buy the reality that
Right.
I am force choking you, I am lifting you up, I'm throwing you against the wall. He makes me just buy right into it.
Yeah, he's really good at it. I would even say maybe he's better than Constantine.
You know, I will give it because usually I enjoy Matt Ryan doing his Constantine moves.
Yeah.
But when they first start their little face off,
And he goes, yes, it's just, it seemed very silly when like Damian just like, and then like,
that's what I thought too. I was like,
yeah,
oh, all right,
fun. Oh, okay.
yeah.
I also just love the concept of this, where he wants to assume that like Norah is like this big sorceress and has this big house and has these servants and stuff, and she doesn't want to say she's a fairy godmother, and I love that.
Yeah, it's as you were saying, as convoluted as these shows can get, because they've done so many things with so many characters over so many seasons, that you can use that to your advantage and boil it down to it's just as simple as a daughter wanting her father's approval.
Yeah, and that's perfect. And like they have a very complicated relationship, but in the end they still love each other, and they have to deal. And I love how you had Norah being like, "Oh, you being a bad guy? Are you coming back and you're doing the bad guy thing?" And he's like, "Well, it's kind of my parole. It's kind of what I have to do for my parole thing." So, but first I'm saying hi, so that's give me some credit there. And that was great.
We've been, as Dave said, we've been all over this episode. So to give it a little more structure, we'll just start as all stories start at the beginning, where I feel like the show has made great use of Constantine having a home, because it's pretty much become like the Legends home.
No. No, it is the Time Bureau of this season.
Yes.
It's clear. I mean, that's just TV. That's like TV. You have to have like two sets that you're always going to, and they have the Waverider and now Constantine's home. And those are the two sets in this one, because the Time Bureau isn't around anymore. So you were able to have these two. So yeah, that's TV.
But I would also think, do you think Ray Palmer, I mean, I know he's part of the Waverider. For him, he's like, I'm on the Waverider. I'm traveling through time. Do you think he maintains any sort of apartment, condo, townhouse in? I
don't know, man. I mean,
2020?
he could. He's a rich man. We always forget how rich he is. But like he could have a home, but also remember he kind of burnt some bridges by everyone thinking he's evil.
True.
So maybe he kind of is just like, he might have a home that he just doesn't want to go to, and he wants something out of the way and something kind of like private that he won't be swarmed if he has a date night there. So I can believe he like asked Constantine just to use his house to propose.
Yeah.
Because he wants to have a very private, like, romantic dinner.
I feel like, I guess if it was Charlie, she would not have asked. I guess Ray would ask permission. Did you use your house for a dinner?
I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
I get the feeling he did.
He's a Boy Scout. Of course he would.
He's a Boy Scout.
Yeah. So he's preparing a dinner where he wants to propose to Norah. We've been kind of hearing, talks about it in the past couple episodes, and now he's going to pull the trigger. Putting that ring in that chocolate mousse.
Bad idea. Never do that. Just never do that, because you're going to eat it.
Yeah. I just feel like it's too much of a risk, right?
Yeah, you're going to choke. And that's what Ava ends up doing. It ends up accidentally going to Ava, and she eats it and has to spit it out. And that's not romantic.
No.
Best case scenario, that's going to happen. No one's going to be like, I mean, you're also choosing something that does not look good when it's covered in something else. Like
it's like chocolate mousse.
Yeah, it's going to look like the ring just was somewhere else that wasn't mousse after you take it out. It's bad. It's a bad choice. Yeah. Maybe at the bottom of a champagne glass, but even that's a little hacky.
That's true. I mean, do you just do something as simple as like you just place it on the plate along with the dessert? Or is that a little too
lazy Susan?
It's coming around.
She's like,
so she can keep spinning it.
No. Oh, no. Oh, come on.
Yeah, I don't know if restaurant proposals would be what I'd want to do with mine. when the time
What
comes.
is your proposal? What is your dream proposal?
I mean, I think like everybody's dream is probably to do it like at Comic-Con, you know, at a panel where you go up and ask a question like in Hall H.
Well, the only thing I would say, the only time I think that's awful, but also like,
There you
unless it's Patrick Stewart. And then he says, like, engage. Which he's done. Look it up. He's done it a lot.
No, really?
No, there's conventions where he, like, is there. People go up and he's at a signing thing, and then they go to, like, you know, he has it. So it's great. It's nice. But it's also dumb. It's,
Yes.
you know, it's a little bit of both. It has to be personal to the two of you.
Yeah.
So
So now I gotta find a trekker.
Yeah.
Really hardcore into the TNG.
Hardcore track. Hardcore. Hardcore Picard fan.
That's right.
Yeah.
If no wreckers allowed. No.
Beard or no beard. Doesn't matter to me.
That's right. I don't want no wrecker.
Okay, we're getting off track.
All right, so we've got that going on here. And of course, just as Ray's ready to get the dinner started, Nora arrives with Pippa, her childhood charge.
Her charge.
Yes, and before Ray can get the dinner going, Damian shows up. Hey, guess who's coming to dinner?
Oh,
Me.
Damon.
And so Nora, not really prepared to tell the truth about where she's at in her life to her father, sends Pippa and Ray to the Waverider, where they watch an episode of Mr. Parker's Cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
What did you think of the insertion of a kind of Mr. Rogers kind of nod in this episode?
Oh, I like it. I think it's one of those things in parody stuff that it's always kind of silly when you see something that's just like they use it. But I do wish, one, it's convenient that his name is Mr. Parker for Ray Parker later on. But it's I don't know, it's nice. Cause, you know, especially Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, I grew up on it. It is a weird show, and they were able to, when they really parodied it later, they were able to kind of bring in other TV shows too and kind of parody those as well. So that was kind of nice. I liked it. I also think it was a good device because I like how she hates it at first, and Ray ends up like introducing it to her, and she ends up actually loving it. Like she really likes it by the end of the episode.
Which is true, because I think that it's a nod to Mr. Rogers, where there is a lot of great stuff to get out of there, and it did appeal to a broad base of children over a number of years.
Yeah, but I do remember watching it at a certain point and being like, "It's no Sesame Street." Like I always thought like Sesame Street was the cool one, and Mr. Rogers was like, I don't want to. It's like kind of a guilty pleasure. I enjoy Mr. Rogers still. It's kind of for babies, but I enjoy it. But it's still good, and it's especially when you watch it now as an adult. Not that I watch it now as an adult, but I have seen the documentary on him and stuff. So I haven't seen the Tom Hanks movie, but it is like a nice. You remember how nice it is, and how pleasant, and how calming it is, and how like low and how unique it is, how slow it is. It's so odd how slow it is for a TV show, and it feels very unique nowadays, where every TV show is like bam, 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 bam.
No, that's true. I mean, that is one thing about the watching the movie. They take you into a filming of an episode, where it just kind of things go off the rails, but they still are rolling because Mr. Rogers is still going along with it,
right?
And you can just feel people go behind the camera going, "What are we doing? What are we doing?"
Yeah, that's. I mean, you talking about the documentary or the
movie?
The movie. Even in the documentary, they talk about it. They talk about there's moments where it's like, why is this happening so slow?
Yes.
Can we keep going? And he just like he embraces it, and he's just that's all part of it. It's really nice.
Steers right into it, just like we do here at the Legends of Tomorrow After Show.
Yeah, and they're also like, oh, someone brings this up in the chat where there's a whole father-daughter therapy thing. It's all about family communication in this episode, and that's and friend communication. And every single storyline had something to do with that, which was kind of nice. It was to jump to like the B or C story, maybe even the C story on this one is the Mick Rory storyline.
Yeah, I mean, so we see Mick is being trolled by somebody who hates the Rebecca Silver novels, is trashing them online, So Zari is dispatched by Sarah to help Mick with his troll problem. And they find out, oh, it's this girl, Lita, and Lita happens to be the daughter of his high school reunion hookup that we saw happen earlier this season.
Yeah.
Since that was, which makes sense now why it was 20
Why
yes.
it was happening at that time period.
Yes.
And now it's like present and
Oh,
it happened.
All right.
And it also made it so it's like he didn't know about it because it just happened. Like
Yes.
he just slept with someone 2 weeks ago. And now he has like an 18-year-old daughter. So I like that, especially because going into I'm sure you felt the same, where Zari, new Zari, there's a lot of millennial influencer talk stuff. And I kept thinking like, oh, now we're getting into a whole influencer troll storyline.
Yes.
Where it's like they're trying to deal with this troll and it's all going to be these inside jokes with millennial jokes and stuff. And then this twist, it ends up being a daughter. And I kind of liked that more because it got off of this weird influencer thing. And I also like how he immediately wiped their memories and then left.
That was great.
Yeah.
No, we're done.
No. I'm done. But it's good also because it's a silly storyline and it didn't really have anything to do like plot-wise with the story, but it had so much to do theme-wise with the story.
Yes.
Being like a dad and a mom and dealing with like a family and whether you're going to be there for your family and then kind of popping up out of the blue out of being gone for so long, all that stuff. So it worked nicely.
Yeah, and
this.
it was a nice, and it was also served as a nice payoff for that hookup back in that high school reunion episode. It was like, oh yeah, that's a nice little way to continue that thread. So I was like, all right, nicely done, writers.
Yeah. Also, and then there's the B storyline where you have John Constantine talking to Charlie. Listen, there's going to be a lot of I know what the beef is going to be. It's going to be Charlie because she's still not developed. And I think we could give her time because I think we're going to meet the other fates and it's going to help.
Man, there would have to be a lot. I will save this for a couple minutes.
Here's the thing. It's a simple storyline. It's just to kind of like remind everyone what the plot device of this season is. The looms, to go back to loom and then come back. But they thought of a way, at least, to have it be about the communication between the two and how they're not talking and how they had to bring it into the like that Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood thing to kind of tie it up. I like that. I thought they did a pretty good job of that. What's the face?
All right, if we're gonna do this, Dave, it's time to bring the hottest segment to the internet.
Oh, I love it.
On all the interwebs.
What do I hear?
Fun.
Where's the beef?
Some hamburger places give you a lot less beef on a lot of bun.
I'm gonna give you a lot of beef on a little bun.
On
right
a
now.
little bun.
Yeah, that's right.
I thought you said it was beef light.
It was, but now you've
Have I inflated have I found the beef and inflated it?
You stoked.
I stoked the beef.
I mean, the Charlie thing. It's just fine. I need a lot more development for me to care because I feel like it's going to do what Legend sometimes does, where it just at the end is going to make things happen and it's going to expect me to care more than I feel like the show has earned me to care about.
You're saying I'm thinking. I'm imagining this is going to happen. It hasn't happened yet.
No, but I'm imagining that the show's going to, what you're saying with like, hey, they'll bring in the other fates and we're going to get some character development for Charlie. I think it's going to be too little too late. And the show's going to want me to be invested in Charlie, but I don't think the show will have properly laid the groundwork for me to be invested in Charlie.
I'm just saying, I don't think we can make a judgment call until we meet the fates.
I can judge it right now.
I think that right now it's just, in the back storyline. And granted, they have established this episode that basically the Loom of Fate is the Book of Destiny. It has the same abilities. It has the same power. But I'll run with it. I'll ride with it. Like, it just has the ability to rewrite history without destroying timelines and destroying histories and causing, like, timelines. So it's a magical plot device is all it is.
I mean, I guess you narrow it slightly by there's only 3 people really that can operate it.
Yes, including Charlie. And Charlie's one of the only people that can.
Conveniently rewritten to fit into this. So great.
Which is good because
We'll
she was
see.
terrible.
We'll see. What if this rewrite turns out to be terrible too?
I'm hoping it is. It's on the path to somewhere good. Right now, we're on the path to, like, you're introducing devices that could pay off, or they could horribly disappoint. It's not Hey World, though. It's like they're setting up stuff that I could see, like, this isn't bad yet.
I remember those times talking about Hey World last season. Those were good talks about
Oh, boy.
the crazy amusement park scheme. That was great. Okay, my other mini beef about this, though.
Oh, that's an interesting beef on the chat.
Oh, we'll get to your chat beef in just in
Yeah.
1 second. I will lay mine out rather quickly, and that is, I'm really, I think with this episode, it finally got me that I'm really tired of the Sarah Ava little tiffs that they have, because I feel like I'm kind of getting done of the two of them being at odds and then resolving it in the course of the episode and moving on. Can I not have I would love to have something that is a external cause and seeing them work together to solve a problem, as it is usually between the two of them and they're always hashing it out. It's like I'd rather see them as a functioning couple rather than they're always getting these little hiccups and like, oh wait, why are you hiding this from me? Oh wait, I thought this is what you wanted. This happens too many times with Sarah and Ava, and I'd rather see them having a more functional one and seeing them work together.
Here's the thing, though. I could agree with that if it was, like, done, but because they resolved it when they were puppets this episode, it was kind of nice. It was nice to have them have, like, not really a problem to introduce, like, some sort of conflict between the two, and then they resolved it so quickly because they were puppets and they were under the influence of a magical spell, and it was just, oh, we get to talk to each other. No, we get to talk. You guys should talk to each other, and they just resolved it that way, and I thought that was a good way of doing it.
I mean, for that, it just makes me think like, oh, we didn't really have anything else to do with these characters. We can hang this really threadbare kind of plot thing that we can easily dismiss because it doesn't really warrant that much attention.
I also think they needed to nod a little bit towards the new Canary show. And they wanted to be like, why isn't she joining it if it's all about canaries, you know? She's a canary. She's white canary.
Wouldn't you like to be a canary too?
In my heart, I am.
Also, if you, all right, say your buddies, because I know you're friends with a lot of people. Dave Child, for those of you that are just watching, incredibly popular, knows a lot of people, is connected throughout this industry, throughout the planet, knows movers and shakers, is a mover and shaker. For all your hot Hollywood contacts, for all your contacts, if you knew somebody that was a masked hero, would you put would you put their name on their phone as their secret? They're like, oh, their superhero handle.
Yes,
you would.
Yes, you know why?
Why?
Because if you put their real name, it could blow their cover.
But nobody's gonna know.
What if a bad guy steals your phone?
They're going to be scrolling through these names going, I have no idea who these people are. But they see Wild Dog, they're like, oh, wait a minute. All right, this is Wild Dog's number.
I mean, I think there's a very strong possibility Sarah does not know Wild Dog's real name.
Get out of here. She's got to know.
Why? Why do you think that?
She's done multiple crossovers with the dude. She's seen him without his mask on. She's got to know his name.
Do you think she really does know his name, though?
I mean, I don't even remember his name.
I don't know his name. I feel like what maybe I have people in my phone that are just like, where I met them, and there's like,
this guy at Ralph's with the Metallica shirt.
I'm just saying, there's a couple of last names that are just. There's a lot of people in the Tinder family and Bumble family in my phone, and it's sometimes just how you know someone, or like, how am I Sally listed comedy show, that sort of thing.
How am I listed in your phone?
You might just be AfterBuzz guy. No, you're Frank.
That's it, just Frank.
You're Frank.
That was it. You don't even know my last name, do you?
Moran. It's Frank Moran.
I'm Frank AfterBuzz.
Frank AfterBuzz.
Yes. Jonathan, how are we listed in your phone?
You are listed as the cat that shit on the floor.
Oh, man.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Boom, boom, boom.
Shoot the cat, that shit. Okay, I shouldn't be saying that.
You shouldn't be
was great.
saying that. You broke. You're
I
out the
broke it.
line.
I broke it. I broke
Okay,
the
so
boundaries.
we got to also talk about how we got a wedding this
Oh, true.
episode.
And we do need to talk about that. But I know I did say that we would address this person's beef. They had somebody had a beef.
Oh,
that
yeah,
you-
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Hang on,
because-
let me bring it back up. Let me bring it up.
I
Rap
think
nerd.
it's actually leading up to it. The beef was that they're losing Ray next week.
And Norah.
And Nora. And I do have to say, like, the way this episode ended was such a delight.
I would agree.
I like the wedding. Usually weddings in TV shows are kind of a groaner because they spend the whole episode about the wedding. And it just doesn't need to be. This was like a montage. It was nice. It was pretty. I felt it. And then you had the reason why Ray and Nora are leaving the show. I love that it's Damian's idea. And I love how Damian is asking Ray to support her and to be something other than just be on this little ship and to support her and her job and what she wants to do and how that might be outside of this little ship. I thought that was really nice and like kind, and it made me like Damian a lot, and it made me like it just felt like such a good dad moment, and it was a strong choice.
I would agree. And when you see Neil McDonough, he starts with the waterworks. I mean, I feel like, all right, you got me, buddy. You got me.
And they also like, and then to end with that twist of like, I basically saying I have to go before I'm dragged back down to hell because that's just gonna bum her out. And the way he kind of like sacrificed himself with Kahn's sword, it was good. It was good, and it was done subtly. It was done like in a way that made me really like him, and it felt like he was very redeemable in that moment.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would like to think this is not the last we've seen him in this season.
Yeah, I mean, when you're going in and out of hell so much, I mean, I feel like there's so many options for him to come back somehow, even this season.
Now, speaking of our beloved Ray and Norah, real quick, there was an article that came out a few days ago because our boy Brendan Routh was on the Michael Rosenbaum podcast. If you were fans of Smallville, you know our boy, the former Lex Luthor. He has a podcast, and Brandon Routh was on there talking about that it really wasn't his choice to leave Legends of Tomorrow. It was, the executive producers said that they, in general, they just find that the Waverider is kind of like a halfway house for heroes. And once they've kind of solved what their problem is, then they move on off the Waverider and onto something else.
That's a good point.
Which I could see that, but for Brandon Routh, he was not ready to leave. It wasn't his choice. He wasn't like, oh, I'm done. I want to get back to LA, or I want to do something different with my life, or pursue something else. He was still wanted to be a part of the show, and it was just the other side that was like, we think you guys have reached a good ending, and we want to move you off.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad because like we're gonna miss him and miss his character, but I also think it's a good sign that the show writers are willing to do that with their characters and not just have to find a new because otherwise it's going to be like him and Nora having some sort of small tiff, and then getting over it and being okay. And this way, if he leaves, he can always come back for cameos, but he's not gone for good. But he's I think that's a good idea, is to make it a halfway house and to find outs for characters, because else you're not going to have enough arcs.
No, that's true. Yeah, we need to bring in fresh heroes so we can tell some, hopefully, fresh story arcs with them. Yeah. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode of the Legends of Tomorrow After Show. Holy cow, Dave Chow, we did it again.
Whoa!
Send this off to, the Smithsonian for their after show vault, because I know they want to keep this episode in there. But if you want to stay in touch with us, as always, like us on Facebook, give us 5 stars on iTunes, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you everybody that hopped in the chat here this episode, sharing your thoughts, sharing your beefs. We love them. Keep them coming. But if you want to stay in touch with any of us, Jonathan, if they want to come by and deliver you a pizza, where's the best place for them to do that?
So the next time you walk by a pair of boots, used boots, just, if you don't mind, just
stuff them in the
fold
boots.
the pizza.
All right.
Fold it. stick it right in there.
Got it. But if you have a dipping sauce, like if you went to Papa John's, you put that in first, get it in the toe.
I would prefer if you pour that in the socks first and then place it.
So they need to be boots with socks.
Yes, please.
Man, that's
Okay, Jonathan is an elf. If most of you didn't know this, and this is how he survives. So please help out our helpful elf by putting pizza and sauces in socks and shoes. But you can find me at Mr. Dave Child on the Twitters and the Instagram, or go to davechild.com, because guess who I am? I'm Dave Child.
I always thought for a second you were going to forget. Who am I?
Guess who I am? I don't know. I forgot.
Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HappyGoJackie. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode of the Legends of Tomorrow After Show. We'll be back here next Tuesday night. Won't you join us here on our little Waverider panel?
Won't you?
Won't you? Because remember, a cul-de-sac, it's like a circle, so our friendship is universal, everybody. We'll see you next time right here on AfterBuzz TV.
Yum, yum, yum. I love you.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.